Let's turn to a big tech story now. It's not the sell-off. OpenAI is officially laying out its plans to change the company's corporate structure. Kate Rooney is back with the details for today's Tech Check. Let's hear it, Kate.
Yeah, Kelly, great to see you. So this transition that's been playing out, it's been anything but smooth for OpenAI, and it does highlight an increasingly competitive landscape compared to when this company was founded about a decade ago. It is the first time OpenAI has laid out these plans. Its for-profit arm is going to become what's known as a public benefit corporation, a PBC. Essentially, it's the same as any for-profit business, but it has this dual mandate. So a fiduciary duty on one side and then a publicly stated mission. Ben & Jerry's, Patagonia are some of the well-known examples, plus names like xAI and Anthropic. OpenAI acknowledging the cash crunch that's behind this decision, saying we once again need to raise more capital than we'd imagined, and that in part investors need conventional equity and less structural bespokeness. That structure has been a headache at times for OpenAI. It was on display when CEO Sam Altman was ousted by the nonprofit board about a year ago. It can also be confusing. It involves a capped profit company controlled by the nonprofit, which will still exist. And this structure, as you can imagine, not something that investors love, those I'm talking to. They're relieved that this is in the works. They really want a pure play for profit. It also makes it easier for OpenAI to go public at some point. And then competition. I mentioned that it's really on display here. Musk's xAI is among those competing at this point. Musk is also an OpenAI co-founder, started rival xAI, and is suing to block this whole for-profit pivot. OpenAI fighting back in court, but certainly a headwind here and definitely threatens to delay this whole plan, Kelly.
Well, the whole ambition for them to go public or have any kind of future as a company, a corporate company, it relies on them being able to make this transition, which some legal experts and nonprofit experts have questioned could they even really pull it off? So this is their attempt to try to.
Yeah, they're going to need to do that. They are deeply unprofitable, we should still say, losing, from what I'm told, about $5 billion a year still at this point. So I think the IPO plan is still a ways down the road, but they've got to get the house in order. They've got to figure this out, not only if they want to go public, but if they want to keep raising money from folks like SoftBank, from some of the big venture capital investors who want their financial interests to be aligned with the board. They don't want the control of the board to be through a nonprofit. And that's one of the things where they laid out their reasoning in sort of this blog post. They did say we need the incentives to be aligned with some of the big time investors. You can imagine it's not going to be appealing as a nonprofit. It really hasn't been.
No, and even if they pull this off, down the road when regulators are coming after all the AI monopolies or whatever, and they're looking at OpenAI, they're going to go back and say, well, wait a minute, why were you originally a nonprofit? Oh, you were doing research. Oh, so you were scraping text off the internet as a research firm. Then you changed to become a for-profit and capitalize. So I really think it's until kind of like the equivalent of Congress understands the whole story that's taken place here, there's going to be a lot more still to come and come at this company for how exactly they did what they did. For all the benefit that they've given to the world, it was kind of a shady way to do so.
It's been interesting to hear Sam Altman justify that decision. And I think the way that he's described it is that they sort of didn't know how much money that this was going to take. They sort of started as a deep tech research lab. That's been the justification, that we were a nonprofit and that was the way we were going. We didn't realize this whole mission that they have is going to take, maybe $100 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars at this point. And so that's been the way that they've described it. I would say there's not a lot of trust in that from certain folks in Silicon Valley. Elon Musk very publicly has challenged that. And the knock on Musk's argument has been he now has a vested interest in a competitor. So that's been their legal argument. OpenAI has pushed back and said, well, yeah, we know what you think, but also, is there a reason you're doing this? Oh, maybe it's because you have one of the biggest competitors. So it's been interesting to hear the two different narratives, but I think you're right. There's a lot to look back at just in 10 years in terms of the paper trail and some of the decision making.
Yeah, and we'll continue to see if they can do it elegantly, successfully, and kind of placate all those different stakeholders. Kate, thanks, as always.
Thanks, Cal.